Hello, my
I love it.
friend.
Hi. Hey.
We should get this started with our intro, shouldn't we?
Yes, yes. Hi,
Let's do
ladies.
it.
Hi. Hi all. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of ShealoGlo LLC, an all-natural handmade shea butter company. I am a champion for your self-care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, and published author who helps upgrade your self and community care.
Yes, and together we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness.
So every week we have intentional conversations and special guests about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. And y'all, I'm really excited to introduce y'all to today's guests in just a few minutes. I am somebody very special to me that I have been in community and conversation with for over 20 years. That's going to date us a little bit. But before we get there, let's do a little check-in. How the heck are you today, Shannon?
Whew, I am good. I am good. I can't believe that it's the end of, I was going to say almost, but it is literally the end of the month already. And, right. And January is off to a great start. So pivoting as always and making progress towards the different goals that I have for this year is really exciting.
Can I tell you about the start of my week and how incredibly awesome it was? And
Why?
little bit to do with this. So when I walked out on my front porch on Monday, I don't know if our folks can see it, but I had this really awesome package on my front doorstep. And it was one of the new ShealoGlo bundles. And I know you have a special name for them. What are they called?
Yes, so this is called the Soothe and Smooth set. The Soothe and
Oh,
Smooth, and that's exactly what it does.
can I tell you, it arrived right on time. Like I had a really full, amazing weekend that involved our guest. Actually, we can talk about that a little bit. But I worked
Ooh.
all weekend, and
Mm.
so when I walked out Monday morning, and there was this little package, and it was all about my self care, and I was so in this package, y'all. I just have to share because I was so excited. It has a multi-use mango madness butter in it that smells divine, and it feels even better. It had a cream and sugar scrub set, which I am hiding from my adult daughters because they love this, and I need to make sure that I get to use it. And then it
Right.
had the Glisten and Glow multi-use oil. So I know that this is a product placement for our sponsor, ShealoGlo, but I just had to tell y'all that this stuff is marvelous and it made my day. So
Yes.
my week started out because of you being delightful. So I wanted to say thank you.
Well, of course, and of course you're humble and you did not tell our listeners why you got the Soothe and Smooth set, right? And ladies, for those of you who don't know, I have a shero every month, right? We're going to honor one once every quarter, but I think that we do enough and we deserve to be honored every month. So I'm going to keep it that way for my first shero because we have the podcast and because Christine adds so much to my life personally. I nominated my own shero and I did that for Christine to honor her because she does so much, has helped me so much through the pandemic, through everything that's going on, and especially with everything going on right now, that means a lot. So, of course, her taking care of herself is important to me. And if you have somebody who, their self wellness is important to you, go to the website and nominate. You have to be a subscriber, but I would love to give a free gift to your shero for her to be nominated so that she can be excited about taking care of herself, that she does all the amazing things that she is doing in the community.
It was such a surprise and it was awesome. So thank you. Like I just
You're
smile when
welcome.
I think about it every day. So
I love
today,
it.
and the reason I wanted to bring it up too is because today, Shannon, we're talking about emotional and mental wellness. And having good friends, having surprises, having things, that just tickle you, I know for me makes a difference. But
Yeah.
you want to set us up with a definition?
Absolutely. So it's interesting because when I learned about the 8 dimensions of wellness, I was interested to learn that mental and emotional was actually together, right? And Christine, this is one of my favorites, having a bachelor's in psychology from Kennesaw State. I'm all about your mental and emotional and how those two things tie together, right? This definition is from the University of California. And what it says is that mental and emotional wellness is important to be attentive to both positive and negative feelings and be able to understand how to handle these emotions. Emotional wellness also includes the ability to learn and grow from experience. Emotional well being encourages autonomy and proper decision making skills. And so, when I would think about emotional and mental well being before, I might think about how many different emotions I go through, right? And where I am mentally, whether it's negative, and if I'm always thinking about my problems and everything I have going on in my life, or if I'm positive. But I love that this definition makes it more all encompassing and complete from what I see when I read it.
Right, right. Well, and our guest has a lot of expertise in this area. She has written several books that we're going to talk about, and
Yes.
I think we can do a pretty deep dive into this conversation. So, should we introduce her and get her in the studio?
Oh, of course. Let's bring her in.
All right, let me tell y'all before I bring her in, I'm going to read a little bit about her bio because I could tell you some background info, but we're going to be all official. So here we go. Sheila K. Collins believes that life's toughest challenges call us out to discover our better selves. In facing such challenges as grief, loss, and illness and death of loved ones, we become who we truly are. I know a lot of people have faced that this year in the pandemic. Her writing, keynote speaking, and improvisational artist performances contain thought-provoking discoveries of ways to deal with the tough challenges life asks of us, so that when we become stronger and more resilient from having met them. Her award-winning book, Warrior Mother, Fierce Love, Unbearable Loss, and the Rituals That Heal, tells of her journeys with 2 of her 3 adult children and her best friend through their life-threatening illnesses and deaths, and the rituals that helped her family to heal. Also, she uses her background as a social work professor, therapist, and performing artist. And also, she did a 2016 TEDx talk, When Death Threatens, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes. It's a fabulous TEDx talk. And if you saw our picture announcing today's show, I photoshopped her TEDx picture, so it's really funny about her sitting between us at the table. So she's in her TEDx mode, and we're hanging out, just kind of sitting and chilling. So that was kind of funny. And this is the part that I get really excited about and love too. She is the co-author, because I get to be the one that co-authors with her. How do you say that?
Yes,
Her
you did it great.
Stillpoint, a self-care playbook for caregivers to find ease, time to breathe, and reclaim joy. Y'all, I want to welcome into the studio a dear friend, mentor, and sister of mine, Dr. Sheila K. Collins. So excited.
Yes.
So excited to have you here today.
I feel very honored to be one of the guests on your show. So thank you so much for thinking of me.
You know it. So for our guests and our listeners that don't know, Sheila and I have been business partners for probably about the last 3 years. And doing a lot of collaboration around our book Stillpoint. But she has so much knowledge and wisdom and things to bring in way before me and probably way after me. But recently, you've been doing a lot of work around the art of grieving. And Shannon and I were talking about this in regards to emotional mental wellness and about what this past, year has helped for so many people we know and love. And that's what we wanted to talk about today.
Well, and I'm going to add another word to the mental and emotional, which is the social. the social. This is because, they have all these categories, but I mean, it's all kind of together. And do you remember when we first were told we were supposed to social distance, and they kept talking about social distancing, and all of us like social workers are saying, no, it's not. It's physical distancing. We have to be physically distant, but we have to find ways to stay connected socially. And it seems like that's what we've all been trying to do, whether it's grandmothers like me getting on Zoom with my granddaughter, 8-year-old granddaughter. I can't visit her, but I have been able. I have to give myself credit for learning this darn thing here of how to do this. Not that easy. But she's also helped to teach me. I have to give her credit. I learned how to do the whiteboard from her. So, but finding, and I think what we need to celebrate for all of us is that we have found these ways to socially stay connected for our own mental and emotional health. It's just, it's been amazing. So, it's we don't really want to be just so socially distanced. That leads to isolation, depression, and all, because we're social beings. And what I say about one of my friends, I am because she is. I mean, that's the African saying, but it's true. We are who we are because we hang out with one another.
Right.
And when we can't hang out with one another, then it's really, it really is a loss in our souls, I think. So,
So Sheila, I know this week we were playing around. We do interplay together at least once a week. And we were playing around with this conversation about mental, because we talk about it in the book Stillpoint, about how it goes in waves. And how we can make a difference with our mental and emotional health with some tools and exercises and physicality. So talk to us about that, because for those that don't know, Sheila is a dancing social worker. So tell us a little bit about that and tell us what some things you do.
Well, this is the thing. So when I was a social work professor, we were sending the students out into the real world, into the healthcare system, which was almost as bad as it is now, but it was it was very tough, and we weren't giving them the skills to take care of themselves. So what I called on then was really what I knew as a dancer, because a dancer, if you don't take care of your body and your spirit, you don't have anything. You're out of work, So you can't just keep limping along, which is what we do otherwise, suck it up and limp along. But anyway, I think what we were talking about the other day, Christine and I have been having a class online, and this is an interesting thing to, I think, mention. We decided we would do this for people during this tough time. We would give them a way to come together using our book and connecting with each other, with music, with movement. And of course, it's been so wonderful for us. I mean, every time it's over, we say, "Oh, this was really good." I mean, for us. So there's a principle there about when we give, we get, and when we give, we get. And I think that we had this even the other day when one of the women that came on with us her mother had died, and so she mentioned that, and so we were talking about self-care, and I reached out to her and I said, I feel like I really want to know something about your mother. And what came to me as she did that, of course, which she wanted to tell us about her, we really want to share the people that we love, even though they're not here, and maybe especially because they're not here. And it was such a gift to us. She showed us a photograph that she had made of her mother, and she had put angel wings behind it. I don't know, it was just the art. So it was just so wonderful, because in these times, we have missed gathering together in our usual ways when someone crosses. And so it's very, not good for people who are close to them, but it's not good for the community either. Because I wanted to hear about this 93-year-old woman. I wanted to know her. I wanted to see how she did it, how she got to 93. So I think that's the other thing. We inspire one another. We inspire one another.
I love that. I love that, Sheila. And it's really interesting, right? So we talked a little bit about ShealoGlo, but what I've been telling my friends that I've been enjoying so much about this podcast is that it's not really about a product. It's really about women taking care of themselves, right? Christine knows that my mom passed away at the end of 2019. And I love how everything falls together, because it would have been a different situation if, it would have been during Corona and I wouldn't have seen her and she had been sick. But there's been a lot of people, whose moms are passing away. And for me, it's about the women and us taking care of ourselves. Because even like I have a degree in psychology, so social work was something that I thought about, right? But it really doesn't matter what your degree is in. The women are expected to take care of people when they're sick, when they're young, when they don't feel good, in between. And we don't always talk about what taking care of ourselves looks like. So I commend you ladies for taking the time to put together the resources so we can be equipped to do what needs to be done and make sure that we're not limping along, that we can really dance through life. It's a possibility. So thank you.
Yes, right, exactly.
Well, you mentioned art, Sheila, and I quote you all the time on this. We say, one of my dear friends and mentors always says that we must make art out of what happens to us. So will you talk a little bit more about that and how you used art and ritual to deal with what life throws your way?
Well, I'm still trying to figure it all out myself, so I keep, when I had so much loss in my life, and what helped was not as much what I had learned in social work. It was not. I mean, some of it was, but a lot of it was the support from other people, from women holding me up, literally holding. I felt like sometimes I was held up by my community, and even if they weren't there in the moment, somebody would call just at the right time or something. So I wanted to find out more about what it was that did help, and say that out loud or write it down, and so then working on this. But at the same time, some people are thinking, well, you got to move on. I mean, you move on, that's the big thing, or find something more pleasant to write about. Well, it didn't feel that way to me. I wanted to go into it. And I think that what I recognize is the whole process of grieving is really almost a sacred process, because we take our loss and we really need to digest it, and art can sometimes help us do that. And ceremony, like if you think about, you go to, there's music, and the music is a way to kind of transform us into a sort of magical in between the worlds place, where we can begin to let that wash over us and become a part of who we become. So I've just begun to realize that doing the grieving work is also how we move on to a bigger thing. And also, a lot of times, and you probably know people that have done this, but when something happens, like I had a son who died of AIDS. So I don't want other people to have sons that die of AIDS, and so right. I started honoring him by connecting to a woman who was teaching teenagers about AIDS. It was a prevention, because the kids are thinking, oh, well, there's medicine. We don't have to worry, So I said, wait a minute, I can tell you. And I could say to Ken I could say to them what Ken would say if he was here. You don't really want this. You don't want this. So when I would do that, I would feel like I was carrying on his life or his mission. And I think that is one of the most powerful things about grieving. We did some work with some sisters, some nuns, and they taught us something wonderful. They had this thing that they would say when there was a loss, and boy, we have had a tsunami of losses. So pick one, I don't care. But so we say, to what life is this loss calling us? So because often it is something, and the one that comes to me right this minute, looking at you, Shannon, you were mentioning about your mom, to me, Black power is Black grief. Black grief is, we don't want another kid to be in this situation. We are organizing ourselves. We are standing against, and we're doing it from the love that we have for our own people that we know personally. So, and that's how the world gets better. I'm sure of it.
I think you just hit on like Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter movement that was in existence before George Floyd's murder. But really this last summer, how much that just so expanded out of the call for love of Black brothers and sisters and to stop unjust killing. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think it's really interesting, and I love what you said. You said, and Christine put it up, to what life is this loss calling us? And when you talk about my mom, right, she had cancer, she had pancreatic cancer. So we know that cancer is developed, right? So you started dealing with teenagers, and I went directly into a shea butter company so women could be intentional about their health every day. So I completely understand what you mean, and now this Friday, I have the opportunity to start teaching millennial business owners, because death and grief is, of course, something that we need to face. But what about this long life ahead of us? We've been underdeveloped on purpose. There's 8 dimensions of wellness. And a lot of times when we talk about slavery, the biggest tragedy right now that I see as a millennial is that we only talk about slavery in really maybe 3 categories of the 8. We talk about finances, right? A few hundred years ago, I definitely wouldn't be on this podcast, right? And I definitely wouldn't have made as much money as I've made already. But that's not the only category, right? Outside of that, of course, we talk about social, like we just said, it went from lynching to shooting people, right? And the array of things that are in between that, especially when we talk about women and how the intersectionality between race and gender is not always given light to as well, right? But again, there's more to life than physically or financially. There's also spiritually. We talk about that with slavery as well, right? Christianity. But there's still a need to be well, spiritual wellness. So what does that look like? But before we can do that, especially as mental health expertise, the mental health expertise that you ladies have, we know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So it's really all of these things that come together. And what Maslow's hierarchy of needs say is that there's an order of things that you need to get taken care of before you can even focus on the next level. And survival is at the very bottom of that, of course, because like you said, if you're not here, if you're just limping along, there's nothing else that we can do. So it's really about not only getting the stimulus check and the education and the knowledge, but being able to have your money work for you, to have businesses so we can make jobs and create more opportunities. And like you said, the women lifting each other up, us working together and growing as a generation with streaming and technology. All the information is easily accessible online. Right now is the time to do it. So I'm taking the next 4 years with this presidency and running as fast as possible. Okay.
Take a breath.
Running as fast as possible.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I know it's we're in what is it, the Chinese saying, may you live in interesting times. Well, we certainly are. I mean, check that box.
Right?
Yes.
That box, right? Yeah.
I think it's one of the things we talk about often, right? Like Shannon, everything you just talked about, like business and survival and running households and caregiving and changing the world. Because I know the two of y'all, and y'all are change makers. And like, how do we do it all and take care of ourselves and communities at the same time? So Sheila, I know because we talk about it all the time together, but why don't you tell our audience, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you do everything you do in this world, take care of your family and take care of yourself? Like, give us some pro tips here.
Well, in a way, some things have been easier for me since I'm not running around the country, because the reality is you have to pack, you have to, go, you have to unpack, come back and unpack. I mean, all of that, I don't do any of that because I'm in my room mostly. So that cuts out a lot. I mean, I'm looking forward at some point to leave my room. But I think, so some things have been removed from behaviors that have been removed, but I don't know. I've always been somebody that's interested in a lot of different things. And one of my, I guess, flaws and my gifts is that I am a person who's interested in a lot of things. It can be good or not good. And so I don't know. One of my favorite songs is "We Get By with the Help of Our Friends." I mean, that if I had one of my favorite songs, the Beatles are right. So I'll give you an example just recently. So one of my friends heard about the COVID vaccine being available somewhere, which of course we're all trying to and so she tells me about this because she's not meeting the category, but I, as an elder, did. So, and she told me, and I put it in right away, and I got it. And I mean, there's almost nobody that's getting this. So when you talk about privilege, I have the privilege of having some friends who are in the know on certain things. And that's the way the world works. It shouldn't be working that way, but it does. And so now we're trying to figure out, can we help get this, to more people and, that sort of thing. But I think really it is being able to ask for help, being able to connect with other people is really how we can expand what we're able to do in this world. I mean, I'm just one little person.
Right?
People.
One little person that makes a big difference. But, that's what we're all about, is connecting. We are, the three of us on this podcast are connectors. And how do we support each other going through this? Now, you're in Pittsburgh. I don't think we've said that to our listeners. You are in Pittsburgh. So it is really cold and snowy there right now. But I know a little something about you, about what you've been up to the last couple of weeks. You want to tell folks what you're doing for your physical wellness?
Well, this is a very odd thing, but in my earlier days, I was a skier. I mean, I did ski in snow, and so I live, since I don't go anywhere much, but I live where there's hills near me, and pretty high hills, and in forest lands and trails, which I didn't even know were there, kind of, because I'm an old person and everything, and I don't know if I want to. But I found out you can get these like ski poles. They're sticks. I call them my sticks, but my poles. And I'm telling you, so you become a four-legged. I'm no longer a two-legged. I'm a four-legged. And so I can't tell you how much fun this is. I mean, and I'm on the ledge. I mean, and I wouldn't be doing any of this. Well, it was really funny because I have a new doctor, and he's a gerontologist. So I'm telling him, he said, "Oh, where did you get those? That sounds like a great idea." He's all like, he's never heard of this, before. And then the nurse, she said, "I'm going to tell all the other old people about this." So I could be selling these. You can see, right. I could be selling these.
Well, I know, even listening to you talk about it and watching your face light up, because we're on video right now, how much we know it's all interconnected, right? Like how much that physical wellness is impacting your emotional and your mental wellness for being able to get out and be out in nature. And, it's so interconnected.
Well, see, as a dancer, and I still insist that I am, even though the dance has changed, and I don't dance the way my 8-year-old granddaughter dances. I dance the way I dance. So, but I believe everything is physical. I believe that in this life, we will get to a time when we will leave this body, they say, and I think that's right. But till I do, this is the one I got, and I want to be good to it, and I know that when doing the things that we need, eating the right things, all the things that Shannon you're talking about with wellness, these are behaviors. Wellness is a verb.
Yes.
And lots of activities, and so being very mindful of what we eat and how much water we eat, and all of that. But there's no question the notion of just being able to move. I mean, some of my teachers, I think it was Feldenkrais, who said the quality of your life is the quality of your movement. And certainly many people who are my age do not have much quality of life because they are challenged and they don't have the sticks. I'm kind of talking if they had the pulse, they could do a lot. And I know that my brain, when I'm doing this, well, you'll love this because my husband, he gets the sticks too, but he's not really sure that this is, that great, because he's thinking of fitness as being, okay, we're going to, go fast and, and pay, how are we doing? And, that sort of thing, which is a particular kind of fitness. It's great. But with the sticks, your brain, because you're having to, adjust constantly the terrain, and you're really with the earth, just really. And Pam told me the other day, she feels like she can see more of what's going on because she has her stick, instead of, you're thinking, I'm going to fall, or, and of course, the medical profession, when they see how old you are, that's the first thing, you don't want to fall. So anyway.
I love so many things about you, my friend, but, I love how you don't, like, that mental piece about you don't attach what you can do to the number of the age you are. Like, I do think that's really mental with you about, you're like, oh, I'm going to go hiking with these new sticks in the middle of winter and I'm going to do it. Like, I know some 50-year-olds that wouldn't do that, like, that would be nervous about that. And you are just like, I'm doing it. It's good for my self-care and I'm out of there.
Right. Well, I have to say also, I have pictures. I'm in my dance studios where I am right now. It's now my media studio, since I've become such an expert on that. But I have pictures of old dancers that I actually saw dance. And one of them is Ruth St. Dennis. Ruth St. Dennis was a very old woman. In fact, I looked it up one time because I thought everybody was old. I was so, young people, they don't know. If you're 30, they think you're old. But but I looked it up to see how old she was, and she was in her 80s when I saw her. I saw her perform. And I mean, I was like, we were, in order to, be like what they call scholarship students, we got to do like clean the latrines and be, waiting on tables and be seen, handing out the programs in the theater.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Yeah. I saw her every night. Man, I was like, you couldn't take your eyes off of her. I mean, she taught me what presence is. When she would stand, I mean, she wasn't doing anything, but you couldn't take your eyes off of her. So anyway, I've had a lot of people to inspire me.
So her name was Ruth St. Davis?
Ruth St. Dennis. Ruth St. Dennis.
One
of the early modern dancers that, those women, they took their corsets off. mean, this is what happened. The ballet dancers still had theirs on, they still do, but they took their corsets off and they developed a whole different kind of dance, which was much more friendly to the way a body is built. So much more. And then she also did a lot of dance with, her inspiration. She visited the East a lot, and nobody did at that time. So Asia, and so some of her, she would be with her hands, like, from cultures that we don't usually know about.
Right.
That was pre-internet. I love having this conversation with 3 different generations in the room. Like it really, one of the questions we often ask our guests, Sheila, is like, who inspired you? And we didn't even have to ask you. That just came out naturally from this conversation. And I love that. Shannon, what other questions do you have?
One thing I was going to ask is, I understand how intricately, I guess, interlocked, for lack of a less dramatic way to say it, physical and emotional and mental wellness is, right? My goal is to run 4 times a week. I want to make sure I can use it for as long as possible. But for a woman who is differently abled, what would you say about that? I hear you when you're talking about staying connected, right? That's why it's Women Connected in Wisdom. So community, absolutely. What else would you say to somebody who may not be able to go out in the mountains right now?
Right. Well, there is a category when we talk about disabled people, or it's a category we can all join, and it could happen like that. And many of us have had experiences where we have a broken arm or so and there's nothing more important than keep moving anyway. You move what you can move, and so I think we teach something called interplay, which is it's based in the body, but people tell stories, and people do this in a wheelchair. People do it, with, if they have to walk with a stick or a crutch or what, it's what you do. In fact, even some of our forms have been done with people who are in hospice, in bed. And bed, you can move your arm, your hand, you can connect with another person. Can just, so in ways that words just don't do it.
I think that is what I know to be true, Sheila, about working with you and the work we do in the world, that connection piece for mental and emotional wellness is like being able to connect with other people. And especially in the midst of a pandemic, like when we're not doing our regular routines, when you get in a funk, like when something funky happens, or you like, do you have something you do to get yourself out of it? Like,
besides call you? I mean, that's one of the things I might do. And there's some people I will not call. I mean, I love them, but I would not call them. I mean, you got to know who to call and when, yeah, I think, moving, of course, is, I mean, just being able, and what I've been amazed at is the kind of connection we can make on the screen. Because we know when we're in person, we can make this connection. But I have been amazed at how wonderful it is and how good we all feel when we do it. So that's probably helped me understand more and more. When we talk about being social beings, we can, it's like we're one body sometimes. And we want that. It's not bad. It's good.
Right.
It's good. Yeah.
That thing about we're all connected.
I do have one more question for you, Sheila.
Sure.
So personally, when I hear these things, right, I definitely think that they are all relevant no matter what your age is. Do you think that you would say that across the board for everything that you would advise somebody do when they're thinking about their mental and emotional wellness?
Well, I think our challenges are different in the age in the life cycle. So a young woman or even a middle-aged woman who's trying to work, she's got her kids at home, I mean, that's a very different, and I remember when that was. I remember, in fact, I also remember, Margaret Mead said that we're the only culture that expects one woman to raise children by herself. I mean, what kind of thing is that? Nobody does that anywhere else, So it's it takes a village. That take a village. We're trying to help people realize that. So there are times in our life. In fact, I can remember visiting my husband and I probably would have been in our 50s, and we're visiting his parents who are in their 70s or, going into 80s. And we would say, we're too busy, but these people don't have enough to do. I mean, really, could we have something in the middle here, because that happens, you get a group of old people together and then they don't have any young people around them. And I'm not sure it's good. So, I mean, my sister has been in she has Alzheimer's essentially, but in a couple of years ago, she was in a facility where they had young children come and she read to them. Oh, and it was her life was so much better for her. I mean, she's wonderful. She's one of those kid magnets, she walks in and they just come over, So there's something about the notion of not being so separated by age, to have more, interaction.
Intergenerational stuff.
Intergenerational. Yeah, I think so.
I love that.
Ladies, that makes sense. Thank you.
Loving this conversation, and I'm also paying attention to time. So I am so grateful, Sheila, because I do know how busy you are. You are not one of those elders who has nothing to do, because you're currently working on your third book, The Art of Grieving, and folks want to stay connected to you because you put out a blog once a week with some really good stuff in it. How does somebody get connected with you?
Well, they can just go to my website, which is my name, ShealaKCollins.com. So that's a pretty easy way. And there's things in there about our class is in there, I think, and the books are in there and different things that we do. So yeah, that's perfect. That's probably the best way to get to me. Yeah.
And we'll put it in our show notes and stuff like that. And I'm sure we're going to have you back at some point. Yeah, hold up the books. Show us the books for folks that are watching or will be watching this video.
I don't know if it's got a little shine on it, but this is the Warrior Mother book.
I love it. Yeah. And that is an award-winning memoir. That is a powerful book to read.
Yeah, this is a story. And it is a story about, like I said, the things that really helped and the things that weren't so helpful, and the role really of ritual, of support and ritual in our lives.
Community connections, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then this one is the one that Christine and I did together, and this is Stillpoint, Self-Care Playbook for Caregivers to find ease, time to breathe, and reclaim joy. Joy. Well,
it's been such a joy to have you here. I'm going to pop you back in the green room. I'm sorry there's not chocolate and hot tea since we're virtual, because if we were together, there would be. But huge love and hugs, my friend. And I am sure we will have you back when that new book comes out to talk to us more. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila.
Wow, so much to talk about.
I know.
Right?
Always.
It just doesn't do it justice. What was something that stuck out with you, Shannon? I know this is your first time. I've been talking about Sheila a long time, but this is your first time to meet her. What was something that stuck out for our conversation?
It's interesting because when I think about the 8 dimensions of wellness, and of course I know what we're going to be talking about next week, right? When I thought about emotional and mental, I didn't expect to be talking about dancing and outside and physical movement, and that's what helps me so much. I love being by the water. I love being by the trees and the mountains and the ocean and all of that, and it does help. So it was just really interesting. I didn't realize that it was such a big part for everybody because I'm so used to thinking about psychology and the textbook version of it, so I really like that.
Right. Well, when she said wellness is a verb, I really
Yes.
resonated with that. Like, oh
Yes,
yeah, it is. Like we
it
have to be
is.
intentional and we have to be active in it.
Yeah.
Because it's very rare if we're laying on the couch 100% of the time that wellness is coming to us.
Mm,
Right?
But
I mean,
I think that it depends. We talk about our goals and our wins every week with our Manifestation Monday group, and sometimes the rest and you being on the couch is the verb that you needed to do that week. And
that's
so
it.
I think
Yeah.
right, right, and so I think it's a balance of both, and not a balance in the way of always 50-50%, because we know that's not realistic, but in knowing what you need in the situation that you're in and adjusting based on what's going on.
I agree. I know for my emotional and mental wellness, I can usually have 1 to 2 days that I'm
Mm,
just a complete bum, like that I'm resting, but not, actively doing anything. And after
mm,
2 days, I get funky. Like I
mm.
really am a mover. Like I want to be, even if it's gentle moving, like a slow
Right.
walk or a meditative walk, or I just know that enough about myself that
Mm,
and I think that's a big piece of it, right? Is cluing into our own bodies and our own body wisdom and
right.
what do we need individually to what helps us to be emotionally well.
Right. And the other week, the first guest that we had with Dr. Joe Veazey, right, we were talking about physical wellness. And my takeaway from that week was my wisdom in action that I was do was walking, even if I wasn't running. Again, I have the goal of running 4 times a week. But the other day when I took a walk, I said, this is needed too. We're inside so much. Our guest, Miss Sheila was just talking about how she's usually in and out of packing and trips. And so now we're inside. And I didn't realize that being inside had really affected me. I got to get out and walk, even if I'm not running. So I loved it when she said, move what you can move, move your eyebrow, get connected,
Right?
let's do it. Yeah. Move what you
So
can move.
fun. So
Yes.
very fun. Well, what are we talking about next week? Do we have it set? I think I know who's coming on, but I think our guest is going to be my friend and colleague, Shoinka Rahim, who is
Ooh,
she is a grassroots spiritual practitioner. So I think we're talking about spiritual wellness next week.
I'm excited. I know we had switched it up, but it's all relevant right now. So
Right?
I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
I am too. How can folks connect with us on social
Yes.
media?
So if you guys are watching, right, then you know that we are on Facebook and YouTube. This is where we're going to be live every Wednesday at 5. Outside of here, we are on Instagram. Again, Women Connected in Wisdom Podcast. Feel free to reach out and join the conversation in between the shows. And if you have any questions or would like to be a guest on our podcast, feel more than welcome to reach out at womenconnectedinwisdom@gmail.com.
Right. Yep.
Yes.
And starting in February, the podcast audio will be available on all podcasts where all platforms where you find your podcast. We're doing our big launch in February, and we'll tell y'all more about that and how you can help share. But in the meantime, I
Yes.
think we're about done for today, right?
Yes. And again, ladies, don't forget, tell us what your favorite part of the show was. Tag us on social media. Again, whether you're on Facebook or Instagram with the hashtag wisdom in action. And what that is talking about is exactly what we said. Wellness is a verb. So how are you going to take what we talked about and implement it this week? And what is the last thing I was about to say? Yes, wisdom in action. Oh, and as we close out, do not forget to be well. Yes, be wise and be whole, ladies. Have a great week.
Next week. Bye.